host has spent decades studying the Bible in the original languages. He holds degrees from the University of Wisconsin, Moody Bible Institute, Asbury Theological Seminary, and Bethel Theological Seminary. With the help of some of his friends, in 1994, Dr. Rakow founded a national volunteer ministry to hunters. He is an author, dog trainer, and speaker. Tom served as a full-time pastor for 36 years. Now here is your host, Dr. Tom Rakow.
Thanks for joining us here on the Rakow Publications Quill podcast. During today's program, I'm going to share a true story about a special dog I almost overlooked and passed up. And I will also be sharing some things that are important to consider when picking out a pup. I hope you enjoy today's program. 20 or so years ago, we had a big batch of American-bred English pointers, 10 pups in all. However, one of the pups, which was overlooked and passed up by some rather sophisticated buyers, and also by me, ended up showing incredible potential. Not only did this male become a wonderful bird hunting dog, but he was also used in presentations around the Midwest. He entertained literally thousands of people at booths, outreaches, and things like wild game feeds. I would often have him stay on a carpeted table, and he would do his tricks or come down and do his tricks. And I could leave him in the presence of hundreds of people and even go to another facility or even another town, and I didn't have to worry. He would be sitting on that table looking for me when I came back. And he was a wonderful dog. We called him Hunter, but his legal name was Lost Arrow. And, that dog was so special and had a deep impact in my life. And what made him so special was that he wanted to please his master. This canine reminds me of a young lad named David in the Bible. In 1 Samuel 16, the Lord called Samuel the prophet to anoint a new king for the nation of Israel. Now, initially, it would appear that David was not even in the running to become the next ruler. In fact, Samuel, who was a very spiritual person, saw David's older brother and thought, "Surely the Lord's anointed stands here before the Lord." 1 Samuel 16, verse 6b. Nevertheless, the Lord intervened and stopped Samuel by saying, "The Lord does not look at the things man looks at. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." 1 Samuel 16:7. In addition, we know that all 7 of David's brothers were first paraded past the prophet. Eventually, young David was brought in from tending the sheep and received God's stamp of approval. We're told, "Then the Lord said, 'Rise and anoint him. He is the one.' 1 Samuel 16, verse 12. David was classified as one who wanted to please his master. Yes, a man after God's own heart. Perhaps today you doubt that God would ever choose to accomplish something wonderful through your life. When we look in the Bible, we find that God used all kinds of unlikely or often overlooked people. For example, God chose aging Abram and a barren Sarai to start a nation, Genesis 12. He picked a murderer named Moses to lead his chosen people. An orphan by the name of Esther would not only redirect the course of human history for the Jewish people, but as queen, she would influence the known world of that day. Paul, previously known as Saul, who had been a persecutor of the church, eventually proclaimed Christ to all who would listen. Yes, God selects simple fishermen, tax collectors, and women with sordid paths to accomplish his purposes. Yes, he may even pick you, and he may pick me. God picks unlikely people sometimes. When we come back, I'll be sharing some things to think about if you're in the process of picking out a puppy. It's a big decision.
The Quilted Arrow, home of intelligent, stylish English pointers with bloodline streams from Hall of Fame champion Guard Rail. If you have a desire to one day own a classy American-bred English pointer, the Quilted Arrow periodically has puppies available. Contact the Quilted Arrow to find out more, Or perhaps you already have a young pointer that needs help in becoming all they were meant to be. With a little investment, you can become your hunting partner's favorite trainer. There is a limited opportunity for hands-on coaching, but no worries. You can also schedule some personal FaceTime coaching. Again, if you have a strong interest in one day owning an American-bred English pointer, or want to take the next step in helping your bird dog be all that they were created to be, visit the Rock Dove Publications website at rockdove.com. Don't delay. Visit rockdove.com today.
Picking out a pup is an important decision. In fact, it's a decision that influences a lot of your life. You think about it. If you're going to buy a car, you may have that car, well, if you're like me, you may have it 20 years, but maybe you'll have it 10 years. Some people, they change cars every few years. Well, with a dog, you may have a dog that lives 20 years, and you want to have a dog that you feel good about. You know, it's important for you to research the type of breed that might work best for you and your family. You know, certain breeds are more prone to bark. Often little dogs, not all of them, but often little dogs are barkers. And the place where you live, do you live in a small apartment, or do you live in a place where the dog can have some freedom to run around with your supervision? The lifestyle you live, do you go on spontaneous trips and you just want to be able to take up and take off whenever you want? You need to think about these things. The place where you live, the lifestyle you live, the experiences you've had with dogs. You know, if you're a pointer person and you've had a lot of experience with pointers, that's one thing. If you've had a lot of dog experience with things like Labradors and Springer Spaniels, flushing dogs, that's a different thing. And the training techniques are quite different. So the place where you live, the lifestyle you live, the experience you've had with dogs, the neighbors you currently have. Do you have good neighbors, understanding neighbors? The type of hunting you plan on doing. If you're purchasing a hunting dog, are you going to be hunting upland, or are you going to be hunting waterfowl primarily? And some dogs are better in the water or withstand cold temperatures better than others do. Do you want a male or a female? You know, what I have observed over the years, and my dad was a houndsman. We had lots of dogs, primarily blue-tick coon hounds, but almost always the males tended to range further when you're hunting them. And I've always enjoyed having females. They seem to be often easier to train other dogs with, and they often don't range as far, but they also have their downside as well. If you're going to keep an intact female, she comes in the season twice a year normally. And if you're going to have a male, they like to spray. And well, so do you want a male? Do you want a female? What type of hunting you're going to do? Are you going to research the breeders? You want to get a breeder that is committed to the breed, not what we would call a backyard breeder or a puppy mill or somebody who's just trying to make a fast buck. And there are lots of people like that. You know, often people think it's really important to go to a pound and pick something up. Well, I've had pound dogs and they're wonderful dogs, but if you're looking for a dog that has some history and you want to know what the parents are like and what the maybe physical problems that they could potentially have are, you want to have a dog that you know its background. And you want to get a dog from a reputable breeder, someone that perhaps is focused upon that breed. It always causes me some concern when I see somebody with 4 different types of breeds that they are, you know, not that they're all bad or anything like that, but they're certainly not focused on a certain one. I like to see somebody that's really passionate about American bred English pointers. That's just my personal opinion. you look at the pedigree. And if you don't know much about the pedigree, you can do a lot of research or talk to people that do know pedigrees and how they can help you. What your plans are for the future. Do you plan on perhaps breeding dogs for yourself, keeping your line going? You want to have a good pedigree. You want to start with good genetics, dogs that certain things come naturally to them. I was very blessed with the first English pointer that we got, and we bought her locally 26 years ago. And she was a natural backer, natural retriever. She loved the water. She had a stylish point, a great nose. And I was fortunate. I didn't know anything about English pointers. Fortunately, ended up with a good one. And then you try to protect that particular line. So you do want to know something about the pedigree, and then the price of the dog. Sometimes spending more money can save you a lot of problems. The difference between a $500 dog and a $1,000 dog that you're going to have for 13 or 14 years, over those 13 or 14 years isn't all that significant. And so you want to get the type of dog with the breeding and with the background and from a breeder that is reputable, especially when you think you're going to have that dog for a long time. We've all known people, we've been those people where we have a girlfriend as a teenager and we pick up some dog that is being given away and we give it to her as a gift. That's not the right thing to do because it's really not fair to the dog. It's not fair to the person that is going to be needing to be committed to that creature, that living creature for many years. And so we want to really make sure that we're getting what we would like to have and to research it, not to be ignorant. I've had people many times over the years. So when I use our English pointers in presentations, I have a table that is carpeted, and the dogs love that table. They love being on that table because when they're on that table, first of all, it's a safe place for them. And then it's a place where they get treats. It's a place where they get lots of affection, lots of love, and they love it. In fact, many times when have gone to set up the table and have the dog maybe standing by, the dog tries to get on the table before I can get it up because they like that table. And when they're on that table, often they are just very well behaved. They're not always well behaved, but often they are. And or it's been a long day and they're just kind of laying there, and people come up and they wag their tail a little bit and they pet them, and people will say, "What kind of dog is this?" And I say, "Well, it's an English pointer, American bred English pointer." And that's the kind of dog I need that just lays around. Well, dogs have energy, and especially English pointers, they can hunt all day, which is a great thing. What I love about English pointers is they're not aggressive. That's something you really need to think about as well. There's certain breeds that even I had as a younger person that I would not want to have now simply because of the potential for them to bite, a visitor. With the things that I do in presentations, I wouldn't want to have a dog that could nip somebody. And that's where I feel, not that an English pointer could never do that, but I've never had any problem with that. And you want to make sure that you are picking a dog for the purpose you want. Another thing many people ask, for example, with English pointers, do they shed? Oh, yeah, they shed. They shed their little hairs, but you get used to it after a while. And most dogs do shed in one way or another. That's something to consider as well. If you're looking for a hunting dog, you may get a dog that sheds. And if it's you like the certain look of a dog, but that's just part of what comes with the territory. So you want to look at the breeder, the pedigree, the price. Think about that in the long term. And not just to overpay or anything like that, but if it's a quality dog and there's a breeder that has been committed to the breed and some of their background and something about their dogs, you're able to see the dogs, watch them in some way or or you know others that are familiar with that particular breeder, that's always really helpful. Is the dog pretty? To me, this is really important because you want to be proud of your dog. You want to look at your dog and say, boy, and I find myself saying to my dogs, boy, you are a good looking girl. You are a handsome boy. One of my young dogs I was recently offered several $1,000s for, just a young dog. I saw him today, actually, and I was working with him in the yard, and I was sitting on a bucket while I was watching him run a little bit. And I said out loud, I don't know if others would agree with me, I said, that is a $10,000 dog, because I love the way he looks. I love his personality. I love his response. He's easy. He's just photogenic, and he's got a passion to please. And he's a bird dog of bird dogs. He loves the birds. Very stylish. Well, I want to have a dog that I enjoy looking at. Now, no dog is perfect, and there can always be some changes, but do they have a pleasing profile to you? And you want to pick a dog that you like the looks of, that you're really going to be looking at for a long time. And as a puppy, you can't see everything that's going to happen, but you try to envision what they're going to look like as their legs get longer, and their tail, and their head, and all of these things. You look at them, and and things change over time with puppies. You know, they may look totally different than what you may have imagined. They may look far better than you initially thought. And but you want to pick a dog that you love to look at. So just to summarize, and I'm going to include one more, probably the most important thing. How do you pick a pup? Well, to summarize, research the type of breed that best works for you and your family. The place where you live, be very cognizant of that. The lifestyle you live. Do you take spontaneous trips? Do you have someone who can watch the dogs when you're gone? The experience you have had with dogs, and you want to get a dog that you are going to have success with. The neighbors you have, the type of hunting, if you're going to hunt, that you plan on doing, or what activities you're going to be doing. Do you want a male or a female? The breeder, where you're going to select the dog. Are they committed to the breed? Are they a conscientious breeder? What's the cost? You are making a commitment. You need to realize you're making a commitment that is long term. And the pedigree. Does the dog have a good pedigree? The price. Is it in the realm that you can really afford? Is it a pretty dog? And then the most important thing that you can do when you're picking a dog, and I'm not exaggerating, pray. Ask God to guide you. You know, the Bible says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. And I remember the last coon dog that my dad had. This was many years ago, and my mom knew that my dad was really interested in this batch of pups, of blue tick pups, and very well bred. And so Mom told me to go pick out one of these pups for my dad. And I owned my own coonhound, and we had usually 10 to 15 dogs, and most were blue tick coonhounds. So I went, I looked, and this was a great batch of pups. And I picked one, and I was praying. I had become a Christian, and I was praying. And as I was leaving, I just sensed that this was not the one. And I went back and I said, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to take that one. And the guy was fine with it. And I took the different dog. That dog, my dad's last coonhound that he owned, was a tremendous dog, was trained at a very early age, and gave him lots of pleasure. Now, maybe the other dog would have been just as fine, but I know that dog, George, was a great dog. And so I want to encourage you to pray. Ask God to lead you and guide you, and you're going to have lots of fun, lots of enjoyment. I think dogs make you, they're just such great therapy. and such a demonstration of unconditional love and of trust and of dependence. I learned a lot about myself and my own failings. We had one dog. Her name was Treasure. That was her call name. Her name was Guardrail Lone Arrow. We lost her when she was about 8.5 years old. And I found myself even praying, say, God, make me like Treasure, because she was a dog that did not demand from you. She performed, but she was just such a wonderful dog. And I found myself saying, God, I want to be like Treasure. You know, God made these creatures, and what a blessing they have been to our world. And what a great thing to know that God has shared these creatures with us. He could have wanted just all the attention to go to him, but he has shared these creatures that have helped the blind, have helped the deaf, that have helped the lame, that have helped find those who are trapped in avalanches, and given people closure with cadaver dogs, and then of course all the sporting and all of these types of things, but most of all just a type of friend that we have. And sometimes they get us off of our problems, focused upon the good things of life. Well, I hope that you enjoyed today's program. I hope that at least you gain something when you go to pick up a pup, that you can think through some of these things and you'll make a wise choice. Well, if you're still listening, you're probably a dog lover. And I want to close out the program with a prayer I wrote quite a number of years ago called the Dog Lover's Prayer. God, you created the canine and gave it a bark. Your great mercy preserved a pair on the ark. But these fallen creatures, like their earthly masters, are bent. Affected by sin, their good nature now rent. For some, they are collectors of ticks, couriers of fleas, scavengers of filth, and spreaders of disease. A bother, a commitment, an added expense, something you must let out in the morning or keep in a fence. But a nobler animal one would be hard-pressed to find. A compass to the lost, and eyes for the blind, ears for the deaf, limbs for the lame, companion through loneliness, non-prescription comfort in pain. Greeters with a warm lick or wag of the tail, unconditional loyalty to both the strong and the frail. Shepherds and hunters, pets for entertainment or show, curs that catch in midair or in some dark burrow below. Trustworthy alarms that never need wound, a distinct whine or a yip from palace or pound. Protectors of junkyards, the great treasures of men. A playmate for children, a faithful old friend. Lord, you gave special powers to these creatures we know, are victims of earthquakes, great floods, and deep snow. Discerners of scents and sounds that have faded away, finding the buried, the submerged, or where the injured now lay. Jesus, thank you for the mutt and the pooch that's pedigreed. Thank you for giving us the different dogs that we need. Lord, please make me as useful as these friends with 4 feet. May I be willing to serve, looking for needs I might meet. Heavenly Master, may I be quick to obey, whether you call me to go or command me to stay. Jesus, use my life to retrieve souls that have strayed. May I point them to the cross, where our debts have been paid. Amen.
You've been listening to the Rock Dove Publications podcast with your host, Dr. Tom Rakow. This program has also been brought to you by the Quilted Arrow, home of intelligent, stylish, field-bred English pointers with bloodline streams from Hall of Fame champion Guardrail. Thank you so much for listening. Now, this is Beth Rakow inviting you to join us again next time on the Rock Dove Publications podcast.